Good morning, class, students, and everyone. This is Vivek Birda, your faculty coach and mentor for the subject business environment. I hope you are all doing very well. We are almost now on the end of our syllabus. We have completed major things. Now we are going to one of the important topic, which was in part of the previous block in the unit, which we had missed out earlier, and it was intentionally being missed so that you, as an at the later part, when you are little familiar about the subject very thoroughly, you are able to understand that thing more easily. So we are going to start up with our topic called social responsibilities of the business. This is a topic which represents like a CSR, corporate social responsibilities, and many more things. In this part, we'll be understanding many things. The so-called the social responsibility of the business represents the in this, we'll be studying about the classical and the contemporary views, the social orientations of the business, the factor affecting the social orientation, the responsibilities of the different sections, the Indian situations, the arguments for and against the social involvement, social audit, recent developments in India, Companies Act 2003, and the CSR, and so on. Thus, moving ahead, the social responsibility of the business refers to what does the business does over and above the statutory requirements for the benefit of the society. The word responsibility connotes that the business has some more moral obligations to the society. The term corporate citizenship is also commonly used to refer as the moral obligations of the business to the society. It implies that just as an individual, corporates are also integral part of the society and their behavior shall be guided by the certain social norms. Thus, the operation of the business enterprises affects the wide spectrum. The sources that they make us of are not limited to those of the proprietors, and the impact of these operations is felt also by many people who are in no way connected with the enterprise. The shareholders, the suppliers of the resource, the consumers, and the local community and the society at large are affected by the way an enterprise functions. Hence, the business enterprises has to be socially very responsive so that a social balance may be struck between opposing interests of these groups. The Gaudias argue industry in the 20th century can no longer be regarded as a private arrangement for the enriching shareholders. It can become a joint enterprise in which the workers, management, consumers, the locality, government, and the trade unions officials all play a part. If the system which we know by the name private enterprise is to continue, some way must be found to embrace many interests which go to make up industry in the common purposes. Later in 1978, while delivering the C.C. Desai Memorial Lecture, he reiterated that if the corporation has to function effectively, it has to be accountable to the public at large. He sought to equate the suggestions of the responsible company with the trusteeship concept advocated by Gandhiji, the aim of which was to ensure the private property was used for the common good. Thus, the declaration issued by the International Seminar on the Corporate Social Responsibility of the Business held in India in 1965 also correlated the Gandhian concept of the trusteeship and the social responsibility of the business as a responsibility of the customer, workers, shareholders, and also of the community. H.S. Singhania classifies the nature of the social responsibility of business into two categories. First, the manner in which the business carries out its own business activities. Second, the welfare activity that it takes upon itself as an additional function. Thus, the first involves the acceptance of the fact that the business is not merely a profit-making occupation, but a social function which involves the certain duties and requires appropriate ethics are being followed. For example, the businesses must obey all the laws even when they are disagreeable. It should produce the maximum goods of the good quality, ensure smooth supplies at the competitive prices, pay taxes, shun malpractices, pay a fair wage to the employees, and the reasonable dividend to the shareholders. It is also the duty of the business to undertake the new investments and promote the dispersal of the economic activity through the acceleration and setting up the industries in backward areas so as to spread the enterprise and take the employment to the doorsteps of the labor. In addition to the commercial activity, business also plays the role in promoting the social welfare activities even directly. Thus, we can refer to this part is about the social expectations. In the development of the corporate ethics, we have reached a stage where the question of the social responsibility of the business to the community can no longer be scoped or can taken lightly. In the environment of the modern economic development, the corporate sector no longer functions in the isolation. If the plea of the companies that they are performing a social purpose in the development of the country is to be accepted, it can only be judged by the test of the social responsiveness shown to the needs of the community by the companies. Thus, the company must behave and function as a responsible member of the society. Like any other individual, it cannot shun moral values, nor can be ignored the actual compulsions. Thus, the real need is for some focus of the accountability on the part of the management, which is not limited to the shareholders alone. In the modern times, the objective of the business has to be proper utilization of the resources of the benefit for others. A profit is still necessary part of the total picture, but it is not the primary purpose. It implies that the claim of the various interests will have to be balanced, not on the narrow ground of what is best for the shareholders alone, but from the point of view of what is best for the community at large. Thus, the company must accept its obligation to be socially responsible and to work the larger benefit of the community. Thus, the classical and the contemporary views, the contemporary view of the social responsibility of the business is substantially broader and benevolent than the classical one. According to the classical view, the business has only economic objectives and no other responsibility beyond that. The Milton Friedman and the Nobel economist and the proponent of this view argues that there is one and only one social responsibility of the business, and to use its resources and engage in the activities designed to increase its profit so long as it stays within the rules of the game, which is to say, engage in the open and free competition without deception or fraud. That the few trends could be thoroughly undermined and very foundations of our free society as the acceptance of the corporate officials of the social responsibility other than to make as much money for their stockholders as possible. This is fundamentally subprime doctrine. The contemporary view of the business is an ecological one, according to which the business is an integral part of the society to serve as a social purpose. Thus, the proponents of this view, like Davis and the Bolson, hold that the business is a social institution performing a social mission and have a broad influence on the way people live and work together. Thus, the point listed under the subtitle Argument for the Social Involvement of the Business under the elsewhere is this chapter reflects the basic tenets of the contemporary view, and the explanation of the social responsibility to the business given in this chapter are based on the contemporary view of the scope. According to the Senator and Steiner, this reasonable approach of the social responsibility is as follows. Each business must take into account the situation in which it finds itself in the meeting stakeholders' expectation. Businesses is an economy entity and cannot jeopardize its profitability meeting social needs. Thus, the business should recognize that in the long run, the general social good benefits everyone. The social responsibility expected for a business is directly related to the social power of the influence outcome. And the social responsibility is not related to the size of a company and to the industry it is in, but a business should tackle only those social problems into which it has a competence. Business must assume its share and social burden and will be willing to absorb the reasonable social cost. The social orientations of the business, the extent of the social orientation of the companies are very, very widely. Further, the social orientation or the extent of the social involvement of the company may change over the time. The social responsibility models represent that there are some models which endeavor to describe the evolution of the extent of the social orientation of the companies. Notable one includes the Carroll model, Hallel model, and the Arkman's model. The Archie B. Carroll, or called as a Carroll model, defines the corporate social responsibility as an entire range of the obligation business has to the society and proposed three-dimensional conceptual model of the corporate performance. According to Carroll, the firm has following four categories of the obligations of corporate performance. First is economic, second legal, third ethical, and fourth is discretionary. Thus, firm being an economic entity, its primary responsibility is the economic, that is the efficient operations of the satisfy economic needs of the society and generation of the surplus for rewarding investors and further developments. The legal responsibilities are also fundamental in nature because the company is bound to obey the law of land. The ethical responsibilities are certain norms which a society expects the business to observe, though they are not mandated by the law. For example, a company shall not resort to bribing or unethical practices, unfair competitive practices, etc. And the discretionary responsibility refers to the voluntary contribution of the businesses to the social cause like involvement in the community development or other social programs. The Carroll points out that these four categories are not fully mutually exclusive and the boundaries between them are difficult. It is not impossible to define further. These terms are not value free and they may be interpreted differently by the different people. Carroll lately presented the different categories of the responsibilities at the pyramid of the corporate social responsibility. The economic responsibilities are the base of the pyramid, succeeded by the legal responsibilities, ethical responsibilities, and finally the philanthropic responsibilities. According to Carroll's pyramid, legal responsibilities can come only at the second stage. This is not a right view. The company must inevitably obey the laws even if it is unable to discharge some of the economic objectives as long as it exists. The figure 9.1 presents the right perspective. The right perspective is over here the business at the center and the economic and the legal responsibilities are the side. Thus, the ethical responsibilities and the discretionary responsibilities are adjacent to it. I'm again repeating at the business, the immediate responsibilities are the economic and the legal. Beyond that is the ethical, and the last is discretionary responsibilities. Thus, the William E. Hilal's return on the resource model of the corporate performance recognized the fact that no corporate social posture will be value free, and to make the corporate social responsiveness a tremendously difficult task. He pointed out that the firms can only attempt to unite the diverse interests of various social groups to form the workable coalition engaged in creating the value of the distribution among the members of the coalition. Beyond a certain level of economic activity, the social issues at a stake may become conflicting. For example, large spending of the social causes may affect the profitability of the firm, which could have implications on the stakeholders and the future of the firm. This call of the trade-off, which involves both economic and the ethical decisions that will not necessarily satisfy the need of every stakeholder. According to Ackman's model, there are three phases in the development of the social responsiveness of the company. The first phase is one, when the top management recognizes the existence of the social problem which deserves the company's attention and acknowledges the company's policy towards it by making an oral and the written statement. The second phase is characterized by the companies appointing the staff specialists or the external consultants to study the problem and suggest the way of dealing with it. The third phase involves the implementation of the social responsibility programs. Thus, the extent of the social orientation and its involvement. On the basis of the extent of the social orientation and the involvement of the companies, the author would classify them into the following categories. First is the antisocial. Not only that the companies are no social orientation, but also they are unfair and unscrupulous in the conduct of the business. Rather than respecting the laws and norms in their letter and spirit, they attempt to be made to take the advantage of the loopholes, interpretational flexibility, or to the circumvent the rules and the regulations by the malpractices. Promoters and the top managerial personnel of the several organizations have been found to engage in the insider trade pricing, rigging, and the like. The businesses may even contribute a part of their ill-gotten money for the social purposes to mask the real face or because of some compulsion to which they yield for fear of some reaction or for getting some favors or goodwill. Indifferent. There are companies which have no social orientation beyond discharging the legal as well as the economic responsibilities. The attitude is that going by the rules and the regulations is good enough. There is a government and other organizations to work for the social cause and is not the business of the business. Peripheral. These companies are slightly a shade better than the indifferent category. They have little bit of the social orientation, often on the namesake. Socially oriented. The companies in this category have a high level of social orientation, but the real involvement is constrained by the limitations of the resources. Committed and very active. These companies are characterized by a very high level of social orientation and the social real involvement in the social welfare programs. What distinguishes these companies from other is the preceding category in mostly their ability to commit the significant amount of resources and to make the social orientation meaningful. Thus, understanding this about the antisocial, indifferent, and the peripheral, and the socially oriented and committed and very active, these are various social oriented involvement of the businesses. Now there is a small situation, that is evolution of the social responsibility at TISCO. TISCO represents the Tata Iron and Steel Company, which has been shining example of the social responsibility. The committee appointed to conduct a social audit of TISCO and has observed its report at a time when the Max Weber, the great German sociologist, was advocating his theory of transforming a transitional or traditional society into the modern one through the industrialization and the modern management. It did not know that in the jungles of the Biharan, Indian visionary had already planned the establishment of the first steel city, not mere factory in the Asia. And before he passed away, Jamshedji Tata had in letter to his son Dorab instructed him, be sure to lay out wide streets, planted the shady trees, everyone of a quick growing variety. Be sure that there is plenty of space of the lawns and the gardens. Reserve large areas for football, hockey and park. Earmark areas for the Hindu temple, Mohammedan mosque and the Christian churches. No wonder Jamshedpur emerged as a beautiful and a well-developed city. In 1970, witnessed a landmark development when the Article of Association of the company was amended to incorporate the social and the moral responsibility of the company to consumer, employees, and shareholders, society, and the local people. A decade later, the board of directors of the TISCO appointed a social audit committee to go into the question of whether and what extent the company had fulfilled the social obligations laid in the articles. The result is the first social audit ever undertaken by a company, the public or the private in India, and at a time it was not popular anywhere in the world. The report of the committee was glowing tribute to the TISCO and endeavors in discharge of the social obligations of the various segments of the society. Thus, in 2000, TISCO won the National Corporate Governance Award instituted by the Union Finance Ministry and sponsored by the Unit Trust of India (UTI). Thus, next over here, we need to understand about the role of the government and the laws. The laws are societal codification of the right and wrong. Businesses shall play a role of the game. The antitrust legislation to curb the corruption, unfair practices, etc. vary between the nations, which is what is right or anti-law in one country and does not be so in some other country. Further, what is generally controlled in some other countries have no legal control in some other countries. Besides legislation, there are other methods of government influence like guidelines, persuasion, incentives like tax exemptions or pursuing. Thus, the social orientation would also depend on the government view of the social responsibility and the power of the earnest of the government agencies like SEBI, for example, in dealing with the defaulting companies. Next is about the political influence. The political influence includes the pressure exerted by the special interest groups in society and media to control the business practices. This includes variety of the non-government organizations like NGO, like consumer interest groups, environmentalists, etc. And they use variety of methods like lobbying to persuade the government and public agencies to adopt the regulatory measures, conducting the public awareness campaigns, and to even direct the confirmation with the business in some cases. Next is the competitors. The social orientation of the company is also influenced by the competitive forces. Two types of competitive behavior are often noted. When one of some companies becomes socially involved, other may be encouraged or provoked or to do something. Sometimes there may be a competition between the companies to outperform others. The other way by which the society benefits by the competitive behavior is the actions of shunning the competitors for the unfair practices or publicly exposing the misbehavior of the competitors. Resources. Social involvement of the company is also affected by the financial position and other resources of the company. It may be noted that TISCO is being constrained of the cap, the affiliate at fairly at high level. It is a social responsibility expenditure. Thus, the ethical influences. Another factor influencing the social responsibility is the ethical decision making and self-regulation of the business conduct. Some companies have well laid down code and norms of the ethical behavior. See the previous chapter and more information. 5 ethical standards that are vague and are summarized by the Gens are as follows. First is the golden rule: act in the way you would expect others to act towards you. The utilitarian principle: act in the way that results in the greatest good for the greatest number. Third is the Kant categorical imperative: act in the way that the actions you take could be universal law or rule of the behavior under the circumstances. Fourth, about the professional ethics: take actions that a disinterested panel of the professional colleagues would view as a proper. Fifth, the TV test: ask, would I feel comfortable explaining to a national TV audience why I took this action? Now, the responsibility to the different sections. There is no unanimity of the opinion so to what constitutes the social responsibility of the business. The important general aspect responsibilities of the business to the different sections of the society are described below. So, responsibility of the shareholders. The responsibility of the shareholders or represent the responsibility of company to its shareholder who are the owners is indeed the primary one. The fact that the shareholders have taken a great risk in making the investment in the business should be adequately recognized. To protect the interest of the shareholders and the employees, the primary business of the business is to stay in the business, to safeguard the capital of the shareholders, and to provide the reasonable dividend. The company has to strengthen and consolidate the position. Hence, it should develop and improve its business and build up its financial interdependence. Needless to say, to provide the dividend, the company should earn the sufficient profit. Adequate reserves should be built up so as that it will be able to declare the reasonable dividends during the lean period as well. If a company fails to cope up with the changes in changing dynamic world, its position will be shaken and the shareholders' interest will be affected. By innovation and the growth, the company should consolidate the improve and its position and help to strengthen the share prices. A shareholder are interested not only in the protection of their investment and the return on it, but also in the image of the company. It shall therefore be the endeavor of a company to ensure that its public image is such that the shareholders shall feel proud of their company. It may be mentioned that the shareholder also have certain responsibilities which they have to discharge to protect their own interest. They shall not only offer wholeheartedly support and cooperation in the positive efforts of the company, but shall also guide the control properly its policies and activities. At the same time, they shall appreciate the responsibility of the business to the other sections of the society, to the workers, to the consumers, and to the community. Next is the responsibility of the employers. The success of the organization depends to a very large extent on the morale of the employee and their wholehearted cooperation. Thus, the employee morale depends on the large extent to the discharge of the company's responsibilities to them and the employers-employee relationship. The responsibility of the organization to the worker includes first the payment of the fair wages, second is the provision of the best possible working conditions, third is the establishment of the fair work standards and the norms, fourth is the provision of the labor welfare facilities to the extent possible and the desirable, fifth is the arrangement of the proper training and education of the workers, sixth is about the reasonable chances and the proper systems for accomplishment and the promotion, seventh is about the proper recognition and the appreciation and the encouragement of the special skills and the capabilities of the workers. Eighth is the installation of the efficient grievance handling system. Ninth is the opportunity for participating in the managerial decisions to extent desirable. Thus, the committee that conducted a social audit of the Tata Iron and Steel Company TISCO observed that not only should the company carry out the various obligations to the employees as well as the large community as a matter of the principle, but it has also led to the higher degree of efficiency in the TISCO works and unparalleled performance in the industry piece and the considerable team spirit and discipline, which shall all resulted in the high productivity and utilization of the capacity. Thus, by discharging its responsibility to the employees, the business advances its own interest. It may, however, be pointed out that the expenditure of the labor, welfare, etc., should have relevance of the financial position of the company and the economic conditions of the nation. The aspect has to be particularly taken note by the public sector enterprises. Such expenditure shall not exceed socially and economically warranted limits and shall not cause undue burden of the consumers on the general public. It shall not result in the formation of the islands of the affluence or comfort in the midst of the poverty and suffering at the expense of the society. Next is about the responsibility of the consumer. According to the Peter Drucker, there shall be only one valid definition of the business purpose: to create a customer. Thus, the Drucker observes that the customer is the foundation of the business and it helps its existence. He alone gives employment to supply he wants and needs a consumer society and trust wealth producing resources to the business enterprises. It has widely been recognized that the customer satisfaction shall be the key of satisfying the organizational goals. Thus, the important responsibilities of the business to the customers are first, of improve the efficiency of the functioning of the business so as to increase the productivity and reduce the prices. Second is to improve the quality. Third is to smoothen the distribution system to make the goods easily available. Second, to do the research and development to improve the quality and to introduce the better and new products. Third, to take the appropriate steps to improve the imperfections of the distribution system, including the black marketing or the profiteering by middlemen or the antisocial elements. Fourth, to supply the goods at a reasonable prices even when there is a still a market. Fifth, to provide the required after sales services. Sixth, to ensure that the product supplied has no adverse effect on the consumer. Seventh, to provide the sufficient information about the product, including their adverse effects, risk, and has to be taken while using the product to avoid misleading customers by the improper advertisements or otherwise. 9, to provide an opportunity for being heard and to redress the genuine grievances. 10th, to understand the customer needs and to take the necessary measures to satisfy their needs. Despite the popularity of the marketing concept and the social marketing concept and the growing awareness of the consumer rights, the consumers all over the world are by the large dissatisfied. Consumerism, which has an organized endeavor to the customers to protect their right, is the manifestation of this fact. In shortage economies like India, many businessmen pay scant attention to their responsibilities of the consumer. To protect the consumer rights and to make the business discharge its responsibility to them, the consumer shall take given up their indifferent attitude and build up the strong consumer movements. Thus, the responsibility of the community. A business has a lot of responsibility to the community according to its location and to the society at a large. Thus, the responsibilities include a large appropriate steps to prevent the environmental pollution and to preserve the ecological balance. Second, to rehabilitating the population displaced by the operation of the businesses, if any. Third, assisting in the overall development of the locality. Fourth, taking steps to conserve scarce resources and developing the alternatives wherever possible. Fifth, improving the efficiency of the business operations. Sixth, contributing to the research and the development. Seventh, development of the backward areas. Eighth, promotion of the ancillarism and the small scale industries. Ninth, making possible contribution of fulfilling social causes like promotion of the education and the population control. And tenth is contributing to the national effort to build up the better society. Thus, the claimants of the social responsibility of the business includes the shareholders, employees, government, society, consumers, and the local community. Now about the Indian situation. The Indian business sector is present a mixed picture of the far as the social responsibility is concerned. J.R.D. Tata, who was instrumental in conducting the first social audit in India and perhaps in the world, was in opinion that while on the side of the production or growth of efficiency, the Indian industry on the whole he did remarkably well. Usually against the odds and in spite of crippling infrastructure shortages unknown in advanced countries. On the distributional side, however, its record was often poor and in some respects dismal, judged by the size of the black market, the volume of the black money, and the general corruption that pervaded over the economic life. True, many a time the imperfections of the distribution side, most hoardings and the black marketing mercilessly gouge the unfortunate consumers. Although it was traders rather than the manufacturer who is mainly responsible for such diversification of the goods and resulting the heavy burden imposed on the consumer. The fact remains that to the extent the corporate management of the even large Indian industries has perhaps unavoidably failed to the important obligation of ensuring that their goods reach the consumer at a fair prices. It is a high time that the producer realize that his responsibility does not end with producing the goods and services. He should ensure that whatever is produced reach the ultimate consumer in time and with a reasonable price. It is gratifying to note that number of leading companies in India have shown a recognition of the social responsibility to the corporate sector, and the business communities have been instrumental in setting up hundreds of institutions of public services like school, colleges, management institutes, dispensaries, hospitals, technological institutes, research institutes, medical, scientific, technological libraries, dharmshalas, cultural institutions, institute of the for the dumb, deaf, and blind, museums, and places of religious worship, etc. Some of the leading enterprises have extended the welfare measures like health and medical facilities to the people of the surrounding villages. Many of the businessmen have given up rise to all of the prison to help the victims of the drought, flood, earthquake, and other natural calamities. One of the important externalities of the industrialization is the serious ecological damage it has inflicted. The problem of the environmental pollution caused by the industries is very serious in number of places in our country. Though some enterprises have taken the pollution abatement measures, many both in the private and the public sector continue to be the major offenders against the environment. In fact, some of the public sector enterprises are notorious for their irresponsibility in this matter. As J.R.D. Tata has rightly pointed out, high standard of the behavior and the discharge of the social obligation should be expected of or on the demand from not only the business and the industry but also from all economic groups in the country whose action shall have an impact on the public weal. This applies in particular to the trade unions which is in both in India and abroad and have in the recent years acquired the most misused enormous economic powers which exceeded not only by the government owns and thus the million of many days of the production loss in India every year owing to the labor unrest and the violent form which some unrest have taken in many cases clearly indicate the need of the new approaches to the trade unionism and recognition of the social obligations. Thus, the participation of the labor in the management has been succeeded as a remedy for manage of the causes of the industrial unrest. While it is a welcome suggestion, it should be ensured that the collaboration between the labor and the capital does not become instrumental in exploiting the society. In some cases, in fact, the record of the public sector is more dismal and that of the private as far as the population of the environment is concerned. Thus, the public sector is at a guilty at the private. Many public sector enterprises in India have undoubtedly failed to discharge their primary responsibilities, which include increase in the productivity and the production efficiency in the provision of the services, etc. It is reflected in the mounting losses of many public enterprises. Some may argue that the public sector is not so, should be profit motivated, but gone are the days of such philosophy. It has been clearly laid down that the public sector should generate surplus to the finance of our further development programs. Thus, the huge loss incurred by the Indian public sector are not of the result of any charity. They are inevitable outcomes of the inefficiency, irresponsibility, and the mismanagement at the various levels. The failure of the public sector in discharging its primary duties has made the flight of the common man more, and it would have been for its resulted in the shortage, high prices, and the more taxes. There is also a wide variety gap between the sweet expectation and the public distribution system designed to save the common man from the clutches of the unsurplus private sector. and the bitter experience of the way of the public distribution system functions. Thus, the least said about the efficiency of the services of the public sector transport undertakings, the better. In our country, the social audit is indeed perhaps more of the public sector than the private sector. The Sachar committee suggested that the companies in the public sector, which were very much a part of the total corporate sector, accounted for about 70% of the total investment in the corporate sector, must reckon with the social cost and the social benefits arising out of the given investment. As a matter of the fact, the social cost benefit analysis is accepted as one of the prime considerations of making any investment in the public sector. It is natural, therefore, to accept that the private corporate sector, that is, in the matter of the investment, it shall also show the similar consideration to the social cost and social benefits. Thus, the accountability of the public sector to the people through the parliament shall find its parallel to the private sector in the form of the social accountability as a result to the extent of informing the public about the extent and the manner in which it has not been able to discharge its social obligations in the course of its own economic operations. It is this sense that the social responsibility of the business, as far as the private sector is concerned, the another name of the social accountability, and is our view a mere extension of the principle of the public discourse to which the corporations must be subject. It has also been repeatedly emphasized that the report on the social responsibility of the company should not be vague or a general matter, but should have an element of the particularism and the certainty. The arguments and for and against social involvement. The important arguments for and against the social involvement for the business are given as below. First is the argument for the social involvement of the business. Businesses which survive using the resources of the society has a responsibility to the society. Businesses, which is an integral part of the social system, has to care for the varied needs of the society. Businesses which is resourceful has a special responsibility to the society. The social involvement of the business would foster a harmonious and the healthy relationship between the society and the business to the mutual benefit of both. The social responsibility, like recycling of the waste, may be unfavorable financial effects, and the social involvement may discourage the additional government regulations and the interventions. The social involvement may create a better public image for the company, which may help it in attracting the customers, efficient personnel, and investors. Next is about the arguments in social involvement of the business. The business should confine to its own business. There are government and social organizations to carry out the social activities. Thus, the involvement in the social activities would adversely affect the economic health of the business enterprises. It may be noted that the expenditures of the social welfare has been imposing severe burden on the fiscal. If the cost of the social involvement of the business is untimely passed on to the consumer, there is no point in exerting the social involvement of the business. Sometimes there could have been a net loss of the society because of the high cost of the corporate sector undertaking such activities. Many companies involve themselves in social activities because of the tax exemption and on the income spent of the special social purposes. If the social involvement of the business enterprises causes an increase in the price of the product, it could affect the competitiveness both in the domestic and the international market. The social involvement of the business could lead to an increase in the dominance of the individual of the business over the society. Next is about the social audit. The social audit means it is an important issue related to the social responsibility of the business in how to evaluate the business and the performances. Born and Ferrin J. Jr. defines social audit as a commitment to the systematic assessment and of the activities of some meaningful definable domain of the company's activities and have a social impact. According to Ahmed Buckley, the social audit is much like a financial audit and is the identification of the examination of the activities of the firm in order to assess and evaluate the measures and report their impact of the immediate social environment. In other words, the social audit involves identification of the firm's activities having potential impact, assessment of the valuation of the social cost and social benefits of such activities, measurement of the social cost and the benefits, and reporting that it is presenting in the proper format and manner, thus the social performances of the firm. Dr. Clark C. in his book about the audit of the management suggests that the social audit should be, as far as possible, be approximated to the ordinary commercial audit. And this should be based on the social balance sheet with the credit side and the debit side. He calls that the input and the output or the cost or the benefit so far of the social balance sheet is concerned. After suggesting that every input and output must be measured in the monetary terms, he points out that the basic purpose of the business corporation is to maximize the financial returns. earned on its financial investments plus the amount of the social returns and of the social investments. To make the rational investment decisions in the social areas, it is necessary to know the social cost and we are to assess them by the same measures as of the financial investments. This must be expressed in the dollar terms. He further addressed that sooner or later the social balance sheet must become a mandatory part of the social commercial balance sheet of the company. Thus, the objectives and the benefits of the social audit. The basic objective of the social audit is to evaluate the social dimensions of the performance of the company. Another principal objective, which involves the objective mentioned above, is to take the measures to improve the social performance of the company and to basis of the feedback provided by the social audit. The social audit increase the public visibility of the organization. If the social audit reveals the social commendable performance of the company, it will help to boost the public image of the company. Thus, the methods of the social audit. Some of the important methods of the social audit involved developed by the different people of the organization are given below. First is social process audit. The social process audit means the aim of the social process audit is also known as the program management audit. It is to develop the integral management system that will allow management to create and administer the social programs in a better way. It involves the determination of the objective of the social programs and the social cost benefit analysis of the programs with a view of determining whether these objectives have been met. Second is the financial statement and the formal audit. Under the financial statement formal audit, the social information is presented in the conventional financial system format, that is the balance sheet and the income statement. Third is the macro micro social indicator audit. The macro micro social indicator audit attempts to evaluate the micro indicator, that is the company performance, against set of the macro indicators such as the national policies. Next is about the consistency group audit. Under this audit, the preferences and the attitude of various constituencies like employees, creditors, suppliers, and customers are identified, measured, and the firm's performance is evaluated against the criteria developed for each group. Fifth is the partial social audit. The partial social audit evaluates any particular aspect of the social performances like energy and conservation or the ecological preservation. Sixth is the comprehensive audit. Comprehensive audit attempts to evaluate the total performances of the organization, including the social responsibility. Seventh is the corporate rating approach. In the contradiction of the audit methods given above, it is an external evaluation of the company's performance by the public group like the consumer organization, social welfare organization, of the media. Given below is the format of the social response reporting used by Cement Corporation of India. Obstacle to the social audit. Social audit encounters a number of problems. Thus, the important obstacles are: first, being a relatively new concept, social audit is yet to gain the wide appreciation and acceptance. Second, being relatively new concept, the clear and generally well accepted methodology for conducting social audits is not available. Third, there is no agreement as to the items to be included for the social audit. Fourth, it is very difficult and in several cases even impossible to quantify the social cost and the benefits of the different activities of the items. There may be resistance within the company to the social audit because of the items, efforts, and difficulties involved in the task. There may also be resistance because of the fear of the dismal and or the unsatisfactory picture that may be presented by the social audits. As a committee set up by the Tata Iron and the Steel Company, TISCO, to conduct the social audit of the TISCO, points out through the social audit day has been undertaken into the number of the countries, principally in the US, who wish will practice their own: Japan, the UK, and one of or two other Western countries. Thus, the subject has not yet attained the status of science. There is no agreement, which much less unanimity among the most adherent friends, particularly so as to its basic principles and the true objectives. It is only a child of the last decade during which there has been a growing concern about the environment and the problem of the pollution, the consumer protection, worker safety, and the equal employment opportunities. Thus, the Malvin Essen, the professor of public policy and the business responsibility of the Graduate School of the Business, Columbia University, and the eminent authority of this subject, remarks that social audit has been described as a idea whose time has come by which it isn't ready to be taken off the drawing board and put to work. Now, the social audit in India. Although the idea of the social audit originated from the USA about a half a century ago, it is only recently that it received the serious attention of the corporations, even in the advanced countries. The first comprehensive social audit in India was conducted by TISCO in 1980, and it was conducted by the Social Audit Committee appointed by the Board of Directors of the company to examine the report whether the extent to which the company has fulfilled the objective contained in the clause 3A of the Articles of the Association and regarding its social and the moral responsibilities to the consumers, employees, and shareholders, society, and to the large community. Thus, the report of the committee, which was no tribute of the endeavors to the company in the discharge of its social and the moral obligations of the various segments of the society. Some companies like the Siemens Corporation of India has been making some social reporting in the annual reports. The High Powered Expert Committee and the MRTP Act, that is the SACHER Committee, observes that the acceptance of the concept of the social responsibility must be reflected in the information and the disclosures that a company make available for the benefit of the various constituents, stakeholders, creditors, workers, and the community, and was suggested that the provision which may be made to the Companies Act that every company shall give a social responsibility which will indicate and quantify its precious and the clear terms as possible. Thus, the various activities relating to the social responsibility which has been carried out by the company in the previous year. Thus, the committee has further suggested that it is possible that a company may be required to alter its memorandum with respect to the objects of the company and so as to carry out its activities at the obligation of the concept of social responsibility. It should be pointed out that there is a TISCO which had in 1970s voluntarily incorporated the Article of Association and its social and the moral responsibilities to the consumers, employees, shareholders, society, and the local people. Thus, the concept of the social audit has not yet been taken off in India. So now this particular part we discuss about the social audit report of the corporate Siemens Corporation of India, in which on the social account, the social benefit and the cost to the staff is discussed as below. The social benefits to the staff include the medical and the hospital facilities, educational facilities, canteen facility, recreation and the entertainment and the cultural activities, housing in the township, water supply, concessional electricity and the transport, training and the career development, provident fund, gratuity, bonus, insurance benefits, holiday, leave encashment, and the leave travel benefits, and the other benefits. Where these are all the total benefits to the staff. Whereas the social cost to the staff includes the layoff and the involuntary termination, extra hours put on by the offers voluntary, total cost to the staff. This is the total cost. Now the social income to the staff, A minus B, includes social benefit and the cost to the community. The social benefits to the community is the local taxes paid to the panchayat and the municipality. The environmental improvement generation of the job potential generation of the businesses are the total social benefits to the community. Third is the social cost to the community, increase in the cost of living in the vicinity of on an account of the cement plants. Fourth is the social benefit or the cost to the general public. The social benefit to the general public includes the taxes, duties, etc. paid to the state government, the taxes, duties, etc. paid to the central government, and that's the total benefits of the general public. Last is the total cost of the general public, which includes the state services consumed electricity and the central services which consume the telegraph, postal services, telephone, and the banking services. Thus, total social cost to the general public includes these things, and net social benefit to the general public includes A minus B. Thus, the net social income to the staff community and the general public includes first part, second part, and third part. Now, the recent developments in India. The National Voluntary Guidelines of Social, Environmental, and Economic Responsibility of the Business announced to the Government of India and the Companies Act 2013 now makes CSR compelling in India. It has been mentioned that the several Indian companies have been publishing social audit reports, CSR report, sustainability report, etc. Some companies have been very quick to respond to the national voluntary guidelines. For example, the annual report of the ITC for 2011-12 includes the reporting as per the form described by the guidelines. Although the Companies Act 2013 mandates the companies to spend 2% of their net profit on the CSR, there are companies which spend much higher proportion. For example, Tata Steel, for example, have spent 5 to 7% of their profit after tax for these purposes. Now, the government guidelines, the Ministry of the Corporate Affairs have released a voluntary guidelines on the CSR in 2009 as a first step towards the mainstreaming the concept of the business responsibilities, keeping in view the feedback from the stakeholders, and it was decided to revise the same with a more comprehensive set of guidelines that encompasses the social, environmental, and the economical responsibilities of the businesses. According to 8th July 2011, the Government of India announced the National Voluntary Guidelines on the social, environmental, and economical responsibilities of businesses. Nature and the significance of the guidelines. These guidelines are not in perspective in nature but are based on the practices and and prospects that they take into account in the realities of the Indian businesses and the society, as well as the global trends and the best practices adopted by the Indian context. It urges business to embrace its triple bottom line approaches, whereby the financial performances can be harmonized and with the exception of the society and the environment and many stakeholders in it influences within the sustainable manner. Thus, the guidelines have been articulated in the form of 9 principles with the core elements to articleize each of the principles. Thus, the guidelines are designed to be used by all business irrespective of the size, which includes the MSME sector or the location, and therefore touch of the fundamental aspects and the spirit and of the enterprises. It is expected that the businesses in India, including the multinational companies that operate in the country, would consciously work towards and following the guidelines. The guidelines also provide the framework of the responsible business actions for the Indian MNCs planning to invest or already operating in other parts of the world. Thus, the businesses are encouraged to move beyond the recommended minimum provisions articulated in the documents. The government expects that the adoption of these national voluntary guidelines will improve the ability of the businesses to enhance their competitive strength, improve their reputation, increase their ability to attract and retain the talent, and manage their relations with the investors and the society at large. Next is the principles. The guiding principles have been articulated in the form of the 9 principles with the core elements to articleize each of these principles, and the reading of each principle with its attendant core elements should provide a very clear basis for putting that principle into the practices. The first principle includes the business should conduct or govern themselves with the ethics, transparency, and the accountability. The second principle includes that the business should provide goods and services that are safe and contribute to the sustainability throughout their life cycles. Third, businesses should promote the well-being of all the employees. Fourth, the businesses should respect the interest of or the responsive towards all stakeholders, especially those who are disadvantaged, vulnerable, and marginalized. Fifth, the businesses should respect and promote the human rights. Businesses should respect, promote, and make efforts to restore the environment. Seventh, businesses should engage in influencing the public and the regulatory policies and should do so in the responsible manner. Eighth, the businesses should support inclusive growth and equitable development. Ninth, the businesses should engage with and provide the value of their customers and the consumers. Thus, the actions required. The principle and the core elements laid down in the guidelines are required to be integrated in the business policies, strategies, and the business processes, emanating into from the core businesses purposes for the enterprise. According to the guidelines, the business specifically that are following actions are taken. Leadership. The chairman, CEOs, owner, managers should play a proactive role in convincing the top board management and the staff within the business that adopting these principles is crucial for success. The board and the senior management need to ensure that the principles are fully understood across the organization and comprehensively executed. Second is about the integration. These principles and the core elements must be embedded in the business policies and the strategies, emanating about the core business values of the organization. And for this to happen, they must align with each other internal values and or must provide the clear business benefits. Engagement. Thus, the business building strong relationship and engaging with stakeholders on the consistent continuous basis is crucial. Reporting. Implementation of the processes includes disclosure by the companies or by the impact on the society and the environment of their stakeholders. Reporting framework. For each of these principles, the companies need to provide their declaration report of their compliance and level of the compliance by providing number, data, and any specific cases relevant to each of the principles. That the format of the business responsibility table is given below, in which the part A includes the basic company information. The basic information includes the business details, economic and the financial details, the management properties and the commitment, the risk, goals, and targets that the management deems fit to disclose. Part B includes the compliances towards the 9 principles. Detailed compliances towards the 9 different principles are over there. Explanation to be given if the company is not compliant to any of the principles and even it plans to comply to them. And the part A includes the business responsibility information. Report to any of the material significant negative consequences of the operations of the business entity. Brief on the goals and the target in the area of the social, environment, and the economic responsibilities for the next reporting period. Third is the Companies Act 2013 and the CSR. With the Companies Act 2013, which replaced the 56-year-old Companies Act 1956, the Indian became the first country to make spending towards the corporate social responsibility mandatory. According to the clause of 135 of the Act, every company must be having a net worth of rupees 500 crore or more, or turnover of rupees 1000 crore or more, to the net profit of rupees 5 crore or more during any financial year, and shall constitute a corporate social responsibility committee considering three or more directors, out of which at least one director shall be an independent director. Thus, the CRSC shall formulate and recommend the board as corporate social responsibility policy, which shall indicate the activeness of the and undertake by the company as specified in Schedule 6th of the Act. Thus, the committee shall recommend the amount of the expenditure incurred on these activities, and the committee shall also monitor the CSR policy of the company from time to time. Thus, the board shall disclose in its report the content of the CSR policy as approved by the board, considering the recommendation made by the CSR committee, and shall also place the company's website, if any. According to the Schedule 7, the activities which may undertake into the CSR policy are related as below. First is the eradicating the extreme hunger and poverty. Second is the promotion in education. Third is the promoting the gender equality and the empowering it. Next is reducing the child mortality and improving the mental health. Sixth, combating the human immunodeficiency virus, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, malaria, and other diseases. Sixth, ensuring the environmental sustainability. Seventh, employment enhancing vocational skills. Eighth, social business projects. Ninth, contribution to the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund and other funds which are set up by the central government and the state government of the social, economic development and relief, and the funds of the welfare and the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes and the backward classes, minorities and the women, etc. 10th, any such other matters which may be prescribed. It is to be ensured that the company spends in every financial year at least 2% of the average net profits of the company towards the three immediately preceding financial years in pursuance of the CSR policy. Thus, the company shall give preferences to the local areas and the areas around it whereby it operates for spending the amount earmarked for the corporate social responsibility activities. In the statement laid before a company in general meeting, there shall be an attached report by its board of directors, the details about the policy developed and implemented by the company on the CSR initiatives which are taken during the year. If a company fails to spend the specified amount, the board shall specify the reasons for it. It is estimated that around 1,200 companies will come under the ambit of the CSR regulation of the Companies Act, and the total spending of these companies under the CSR are estimated to be around 5,000 crores as against the earlier estimated range of around 10,000 to 20,000 crores. Thus, in summarize, we can summary that this rationale of the concept of the social responsibility is that the industry shall no longer be regarded as a private arrangement of enriching the shareholders. It has become a joint enterprise in each workers, management, consumers, social, locality, government, and the trade unions officials all play a part. If a system which we know by the name private enterprise is to continue, some way may be found to embrace many interests which may go to make up the industry in the common. It is argued that the company must have a number of social responsibilities to the employees, shareholders, consumers, and the community. Thus, the social responsibility of the business is advocated on the ground that the resources it may use are not limited to those of the proprietors, and the impact of the operations it must felt, and also by many people who are in no way connected with the enterprises. Thus, the shareholder, the supplier of the resources, the consumer, and the local community and the society at large are affected by the way an enterprise functions. Hence, a business enterprise has to be socially very responsive so that the social balances may be struck between the opposing interests of these groups. Further, companies which have huge resources at their disposal have a moral responsibility to care for the society. Besides, discharge of the social responsibility will be the company's own interest, because of it will help to build up the good rapport with the society and the government, and to improve the employee morale and the industrial relations. However, there are also arguments against the social involvement in the businesses. It will affect the financial health of the companies. It may lead to attempt of the dominant community affairs, and the cost of the social involvement and may be passed to the consumers by the price increase. For many companies, it is tax saving gimmick, so goes the arguments. Thus, the social audit enables the public as well as the company to evaluate the social performances of the company. Thus, the social audit is much like a financial audit, and it is identification and the examination of the activities of the firm in order to increase and evaluate the measures and to report their impact on the immediate social environment. There is no single virtue universally agreed upon methods of the social auditing. Some of these important methods of the social auditing are developed by the different people of the organization, which include the social process audit, financial statements, formal audit, macro, micro social indicators, constituency group audit, partial social audit, comprehensive audit, and the corporate rating approaches. So this is all regarding about the social uh, uh, about the social responsibility of the businesses. In order to study more, there are a few references which we can study. For example, the content drafted by the Future of the Private Enterprises, a study in the responsibility by George Gaudia, or the report by Government of India of the High Powered Expert Committee on the Companies and the MRTP Act. Then from the Singhania, H.S. Singhania, the content on the page setters written on 3rd August 1980. Additionally, there are things written, for example, G.R.D. Tata, the matter of the expectation, written on 3rd August 1980 in the Economic Times, is also very important documents which can be studied over there. Now, beyond this, we need to focus and study the small content over here. That is about the business leaders on the corporate social responsibility. So over here, we are about to read that there are business leaders on the corporate social responsibilities, what they say. Here is the observation of some of the business leaders speaking on the summit on the social corporate responsibility. For example, according to N.R. Narayan Murthy, the chairman and the chief executive officer of Infosys Technologies Corporate, he said that the corporate's foremost social responsibility is to create the maximum shareholders value working under the circumstances where it is fair to all its stakeholders, workers, consumers, and the community, government, and the environment. And he points out that by living in harmony with the community and the environment around us, and not by cheating our customers and the workers, we might gain anything in the short run. But in the long run, it means greater profits and the shareholders' value. In the opinion of the Aman Mehta, the CBO, HSBC, Hong Kong, however, it is not so straightforward. He says that the CSR as a concept of the different to different people and in different countries, fundamentally, CSR is balancing the conflict interest put up the corporations from the different stakeholders with the object of the commercial organization in such a way that it is minimum loss to anybody. Meanwhile, the veteran Colomb chairman and the chief executive officer of the Lafrange France observed that the companies can't be successful in the long run without the happy community around and motivated and the happy workforce with which would translate into the greater labor productivity. Thus, the lower wastage in the manufacturing processes and the product rejection rate resulting in the greater profits. According to him, the international companies can exhibit great social responsibility by bridging the inefficient manufacturing and the business practices to the developing countries and training and educating the local people in the new skills and the technologies. So this is all what has been taken from the Economic Times article dated 5th December 2001, and this is some of the big short opinions from the corporates regarding the CSR. So students, this is all over here on the topic called social responsibility, and we have so far studied a lot, and there is one more article, there is one more about the social expectations which will take a minute more. It is about in the development of the corporate ethics. We had reached a stage where the question of the social responsibility of the business of the community can no longer be scoped or taken lightly. In the environment of the modern economic development, the social sector no longer function in isolation. If the plea of the company is that they are performing a social purposes in the development of the country is to be accepted, it can only be judged by the test of the social responsiveness shown to the needs of the community and by the companies. Thus, the company must behave and function as in a responsible manner of the society, likely any other individuals, and which cannot shun moral values nor can be ignored actual compulsions. Thus, the real need is for some focus on the accountability of the boards and the management, at which it is not limited to the shareholders alone. In modern times, the objective of the business has to be the proper utilization of the resources of the benefit of the others, as the profit is still necessary with the part of the total picture. But it is not the primary purpose. It implies that the claim of the various interests will have to be balanced not only at the narrow ground, what is the best is the shareholders alone, but from the point of view that what is the best for community at a large. Thus, the company must accept its obligation to the social responsibility and work at a larger benefit of over here. So, in this chapter, we have studied about the classical and the contemporary views of the corporate social responsibility or the social responsibility of the business. We have studied about the social orientation of the business, factors which affect the social orientations, responsibilities of the different sections, the Indian situation, arguments for and against social involvement, social audit, and also the recent developments. Additionally, we have seen the Companies Act 2003 and the CSR over there. So this is all for the today's class. Student, thank you. We hope you have enjoyed the session. This is your faculty and guide Vivek Birda. You can connect back me on the email ID vivekb.management@tmu.ac.in. See you again in the next class. Thank you.